What's going on, guys? Good morning. We got a big week ahead of us, and I just really want to get right into it because I'm freaking excited. Shit's really looking like a nice roadmap is coming clear for us. We have a few upside destinations, we have a few downside destinations. I want to talk about this gap up real quick. Monday morning, February 11th, we are gapping up about a point higher than Friday's um, wacky close. To about the 270.50 area. I want you to keep that in mind because if you look over here at Thursdays, the high of the day was this 271.54 resistance, and we're going to be opening up below that. So that's going to be our first, real resistance area. And if that clears, I want you guys to understand that we have a gap, this gap from about 271.55 to the bottom here at about 272.01. Um, and that's a low from both of these days. Kind of had that double bottom. That's it's not a large gap, but that gap does provide us with some nice upside potential. Um, Definitely something to keep in mind. Personally, my game plan entering today is to watch how this pulls back and holds this gap. Um, are we going to, pull back and test the lows from, the highs and close from Friday? Because if that's the case, the downside gap will be filled, and if the buyers do come in, that shows extreme strength, and I would like to get on board in that situation. Um, we do have a support here at 270.88 as well. So that's going to be our first downside destination. Even if that gets bought up, then the Bears won't even get, price action to Friday's close. And that's showing me that, we do have some extra strength. Obviously, I'm going to be a little bit patient because this gap up is pretty sizable. Um, I'd rather wait for confirmation, but we do have room on the downside as well. If this support fails, we have room to the close on Friday, and you know what? After that, you really have a lot of room down into these lower levels. If these support levels start breaking, we have a lot of room down to the lows from Thursday and Friday at about 268, and even 269.28. And you get below that and you have a lot of room on the downside. So I want to keep that in mind. As you can see on our daily chart, our MACD is curling. We have seen it pull back into zero territory and hold. Right now, we might be opening up above our EMAs. It is a mess because of all our price levels I have marked out on our 30-minute and 5-minute charts. So it's kind of hard to see on this, but definitely want to keep that in mind. We did test our bottom EMA at 13. It held on the low of the day on the daily chart, so it's something to keep in mind. Weekly, we still have that green convergence, kind of a doji indecision candle on the weekly. I want to see where we open up and where we, figure ourselves out. Like I said, we do have that upside gap to fill. I want to be watching that very closely. If we do get above this 271.55 area, which was Thursday's high, we do have room to this 272.01. That's going to be an upside play, and then if that ends up breaking, we have room to the next levels at 272.35, and then up into the highs of these days. I'll write them all out in chat for us, so you can mark them up on your own chart. But like I said, if we get below Friday's high, and on a bearish move, it's very possible we start retracing until these lows. I think that's definitely within the possibility. It's something I definitely want to keep in mind. We want to keep that in watch, and for that reason, because we have upside moves and a potential downside move, obviously you always have to prepare for either side. I have two stocks on our watch list this week. I want to keep things very simple. I want to look at the SPY. I want to analyze the market. Really be focused on that this week because I think it's going to be a very important week for both the bulls and the bears as we are getting closer to our 200-day moving average now. We do have a few upside destinations before we get to that, but I do want to focus on two stocks this week just in case. So first, I want to go on the downside. JP Morgan, this was last week's list as well. We did break our Fibonacci level, and it held as resistance 102.3, 102.03. Our MACD is crossing to the downside on the daily, and it's very potential. It's very possible that we reject an upside move on the weekly MACD. It already looks like it is rejecting, so we'll have to see. Our next Fibonacci level is at 97.77, so we do have room to retrace to that area, which should provide us with an excellent swing trade. Options on this are fairly cheap as well, so I'm looking for any sort of upside resistance rejection. We are going to be testing this level pre-market on a gap. We're going to have to wait and see. As you can see, the 30 minutes a bit overextended. I want to see where we open up and what the first time period does with this level here. We do know from last week that JP Morgan is very weak compared to the overall market. It's going to be interesting to keep an eye on. So we'll have that in mind. Now to the long setup, we have Verizon bouncing very nicely off support on the daily chart. As you can see from this level here, very clean. Had pretty nice earnings. If this level breaks, we have an easy exit. As you can see, you have a decent amount of downside room. What I wanted to really focus on and what's leaning me to say that this is a possible support buy is, the rounding of our EMAs, and, that MACD's posting higher lows. So I want to see if this holds. We might get room back up to this area at about 55.21, which is the next major daily resistance. So we are bottoming out on the MACD, and we do have confirmed support already. So we'll look at the weekly as well. Weekly's a bit oversold, sort of, kinda. It has more room on the downside, but who's to say that we get that just yet? We're gonna have to be a little bit patient. Kind of looks like somewhat of a head and shoulders. For now, this is definitely a good setup to keep our eyes on. If the market breaks on the upside, I would be in this position as well. I don't want to be in this if the market is on the low side. I'd rather be trading JP Morgan. With that being said, we have a game plan for this week. I want to keep it in mind. Obviously, I can't prepare us for what comes in the days tomorrow, but for today, what we need to be focusing on is this setup on the SPY. Very important, very key. Keep the 200-day moving average in mind as we approach that. It's a very important resistance area. With that being said, I hope we all kill it this week. I'll see you in chat.